Hey, what's up, you guys? John
And Kat.
from Old Reading Farm here, and we're actually filming from our loft, which spent very little time up here. It's pretty much just been storage, although recently turned into a podcast studio, question mark. But anyway, there's been a lot going on in the world of dahlias, and that's a sentence that I never ever thought that I would say. But there has been a lot of drama recently over this past summer, and it's something that Catherine and I have talked a lot, something about we've had private thoughts about a lot, and there's just some crazy stuff going on out there, and we're here to talk about it. We have some of our dahlias. These are our dahlias that we grew ourselves.
Yay!
Yeah, like, just, so we're legit, We're not going to be selling any bouquets.
This is our street credibility right here. This is Sierra Glow, and if this is not like the most fantastic dahlia you've ever seen, I don't know what is.
It's like as big as your head. It's crazy. It's gigantic.
And you know what? It met my expectations. Sometimes when you buy things online, you're like, that looks amazing. And then you get it and you're like, like...
Bought on Temu or
Temu,
whatever. Yeah.
Amazon... And it's sort of like, Chinese scammers, they like see something that's real nice and they say like, yeah, I could sell you that. And then they sell you this like cheap knockoff version of it. This met all of my expectations.
Yes.
Okay, so basically we are sort of casual dahlia growers. So I'm going to say that as our disclaimer. We are a farm, so our objective is to make money on our farm.
On our endeavors,
Yes.
farm, our agricultural endeavors.
We have long aimed to make money as flower farmers, and that's been difficult for us.
Yeah.
At our last farm, we sold bouquets, not super successfully, but we sold bouquets, and we sold them at a very low price point.
Well, I was going to say, I think we did sell them successfully. I think they sold for lower. I mean, we sold like $5
yes.
bouquets. Could have sold them for more for sure.
Yes. So, one thing that we want to be in our business plan going forward is selling dahlias, but less so the flowers and more so the tubers. So in case you are completely uninvolved in dahlias, the way that they work in this growing climate is you plant a tuber, which is basically like a little potato.
I did learn that vegetables was a made-up word. And that like everything that we think is vegetables are actually not. So yeah, they said potatoes.
Yeah.
It's a tuber.
Tuber, right. So you plant this dahlia tuber in the ground. It grows flowers, and over the course of the year, it will asexually multiply itself via making more tubers. So what you plant as one will become a clump of them.
Just like potatoes. Where if you plant like a seed potato in the ground, the idea is that it's going to grow more potatoes.
Right. And the dahlias also can grow from seed. So that's like the sexual reproduction of dahlias. So when dahlias cross-pollinate, if you plant a seed from this dahlia, you wouldn't get this dahlia. But if you plant a tuber from this dahlia, you will get this dahlia. So that's just like kind of the highlights, and seeds could be like a cross-pollination mix of whatever's available, and that's how new varieties of dahlias are made, through seeds. So you cross-pollinate either intentionally or serendipitously. You plant the seeds, you grow up the seeds, see if you like the flower. If you like the flower, then you save the tuber and multiply out that variety as tuber. So that's your like oral history on how dahlias work.
Yeah, you'll need like a little bit of an understanding of how dahlias work to do this whole conversation.
Right. So, do you want to take it from here?
Well, I think we should probably. So we're going to be talking about two different companies. The first one is Coseytown, and they're called hybridizers, where they do exactly what Catherine just says. They take. I don't know exactly how it works, but they
grow out seeds and see if they like the flowers, and if they like the flowers, they save the tubers.
Right. Okay. And then they sell those tubers. Right. And then you know, one of the aspects of dahlias is like Catherine just talked about, where if you plant a tuber, you're going to get more tubers.
You get a clump.
You get a clump. And so then in the fall, you can separate them and store them. And then, so if you start with one tuber, you plant it in the ground, you could end up with 10 at the end of the year. And then you could end up with 10 plants. And then from there, you can end up with 100 plants and then 1,000 plants if all goes well. Yada, yada. There's also a lot of factors between like storage, animals eating them. I mean, all the normal wear and tear of flower farming. But so that's like an aspect of dahlias and part of the business plan of a lot of, I think, flower farms, and a way that a lot of hobby growers offset the cost. Because some of these tubers,
they're very expensive.
They can cost up to $40 for just one tuber.
These tubers, I think, were like $30 each.
And I mean, look at that flower.
Right.
If we get 5 more tubers like that.
Subjectively worth it.
Right, yeah. Even if we don't get anything, well, that's a pretty flower.
It is a pretty flower. And so that, like John was just saying, that's one thing about dahlias that's very different than many other plants, because you cannot, in our growing zone, you cannot leave these in the ground over winter. They will freeze and die. So everybody digs them up and divides them. So part of what makes them such a great flower is really your ability to multiply your own stock.
Right.
And it's also conveniently a nice way to make money as a flower farmer. And I'm using that in air quotes because we are not flower farmers. We're really alpaca farmers and chicken farmers who also like flowers.
But it's the same idea where if we sold a female alpaca to somebody, you know, one of the things that alpacas do is they do breed. So if they wanted to breed alpacas, you know, that's one of the things that they can do. And so the thing that's inherent with purchasing dahlia tubers is that
ability to multiply.
They will multiply.
And what I was going to say was that it also, that aspect happens in your off season. So during the summer, you could be selling flowers, but during the winter, there are no flowers. But that's when you could have a dahlia tuber sale to make income to support you when there's no flowers growing. So I think that's an important kind of piece of this puzzle that people do knowingly get tubers and then trade them or sell them, whether it's on a large scale or a small scale. Because even if you only grew let's say you're just a small backyard grower and you want to have 15 plants. If you grew this and you spent $30 on it, you don't need 10 of them the next year because you only have space for 15 plants. So then you have 9 of something that's worth $30. You can really, really, really offset your cost of the initial investment, growing it all year, taking care of it all year. And then if you want to buy another variety that's also very expensive, then you have some money to go look for it. Because, go ahead.
And that's like one of the things that you said, where it's like when you get a tuber,
it's
gonna look like this.
Yeah, right.
So it's not like you're getting seeds that may or may not have been cross-pollinated that are gonna look a little bit different. You're gonna get these. And so like, you know, it's a valuable thing and lots of people want it. And even for just people who want to just trade.
Right.
I mean, on Facebook, there's so many groups.
Buy, sell, trade.
Yeah. And it's like you said, there's a whole community based on that. And like, even if you're not a flower farmer, if you're just somebody who likes dahlias, like you said, you know, I don't have room for 9 of these, but maybe I want to try a different variety or, you know, whatever.
And offsetting costs is something that, like, on top of farming where you're trying to do it for profit, offsetting your costs is sort of a different animal, but no less respectable. Like, even back in the days when we were just doing eating eggs, if I would place a big order for chicks from like a hatchery, I would order, say, 20 extra and then try to sell those chicks to cover the cost of what it's going to cost me to raise those chicks from a chick to an adult when they're not laying any eggs and I'm not producing any income from them, even though I'm never really producing any income from chickens, let's be real. So, okay, so let's talk about, we're going to talk about, like John started to say, we're going to talk about Coseytown and we're going to talk about K.A. Kirsten Albright of Santa Cruz Dahlias.
So why don't you start with Coseytown?
Okay, so long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, it was before Coseytown's sale launched, she made an announcement on her website that she was going to start restricting the sale of her dahlia varieties. So certain hybridizers will name their special. So this is a Sierra Glow. If instead of being a Sierra Glow, it could have been a Coseytown Gale is one of her dahlia tubers, and I'll pop up on the screen what it looks like. So she hybridized this dahlia, called it Coseytown Gale, and then has offered it for sale in the past. Then people out there in the world have bought that Coseytown Gale. The tubers on her website cost between $30, I think is probably the least expensive, and then upwards of $40 per tuber.
She may have had some less expensive ones, but we don't, yeah, we'll have to look, I guess.
Yeah, I'll do a screen capture,
Sure.
a screen recording shopping her website. So she sells Coseytown Gale, and then what happens is, kind of as nature of dahlias and how they work, people would buy that the first season. They would grow their flower, get 10 tubers, and then resell them. And because she is a hybridizer who is known, those tubers command a higher price than, say, like, so these are Blizzard here, and John has next to him one that is Boom Boom White. Those are very, like, basic, widely available dahlia tubers. They're, you know, available for purchase from websites like Swan Island for, like, in the range of $10. So we're talking a third of the price. Beautiful, but not, like, maybe as special as hers are perceived to be.
Right.
So she makes this announcement that from now on, no one is allowed to sell her dahlia tubers. She said you can still grow them, you can still sell the cut flowers, and you can still trade them, but you cannot sell her dahlia tubers. And this is something that she announced to be retroactive. So anyone who had previously invested money in her dahlia tubers, she was now saying, too bad, so sad, not my problem, you can't sell those. And the internet, I mean, our little corner of the internet, right? It wasn't like the internet at large went crazy.
Yeah, they weren't talking about this on CNN or anything,
Right.
yeah.
But the flower farming corner of the internet did sort of go crazy.
Exploded.
Yeah, they're like posts with thousands of comments discussing this. So we are going to offer our opinions, and these are just our opinions, and we are very small scale. Last year we probably sold about $500 worth of dahlia tubers. This year we've invested, and not a flex, we've invested about $5,000 in our dahlia tubers.
Between the tubers and the soil
Yes.
and all that, we've gotten a lot of compost.
So maybe
Yes.
a little bit more.
No, I think five is a good number,
Okay.
because I think it was
And we do pay taxes on this income. This is not like
right now.
IRS don't at us.
Well, also right now it's only expenses we're talking about currently.
True, yeah.
But yeah, so I think it was somewhere in the neighborhood of $3,500 for the tubers. But again, I mean, we have a lot of tubers, and again, not a flex. Just like want to be real with y'all about
Right,
how.
and this was something that we did with the intention of selling these dahlia tubers. Thankfully, I only have I think one or maybe two varieties of Coseytown, and I don't have any KAs.
But so there's a bunch of different problems here. One is, and I think that's consistent between Coseytown and KA, and maybe I'll just Santa Cruz is easier to say. Either way, Santa Cruz and KA is the same thing. So there's the retroactive aspect of it, which is wrong, and then there's
And not enforceable.
and unenforceable. Those are the two things that I think, because the KA Santa Cruz situation is a little bit different.
Why don't you explain it?
The KA one.
Yeah.
So Santa Cruz Dahlias posted on Facebook. There's a private group that's like KA Friends or whatever. They posted on Facebook that basically now going forward they have trademarked, although they only applied for the trademark, for all of the KA names, meaning that if you got KA Sierra Glow, which is not a thing, but so if you got KA, they tried to trademark that as well as some of their variety names. And that if you are going to sell tubers or cuttings from their tubers, that you have to pay them a 25% royalty. And their first post said that you had to pay $200 up front to be part of the program. They have since pulled that $200 up front back. But it was a very similar backlash from that, because they did the same thing where it's like anybody who, but they also made this announcement after they had already had their sales. This was like less than a week ago that this came down. So like imagine you are a new flower farmer like us, and granted we didn't do this, but if you went out and spent $3,500 on
just
KA varieties, and then you found out that you have to then give 25% of your gross sales back.
That would be shocking.
Shocking.
And awful.
And awful.
And one other hybridizer who we actually did, I sort of went out of my way to find several varieties from this hybridizer, is Bloomquist.
Mm-hmm.
There's Bloomquist Gene, which we have, Bloomquist Candy Corn, which we have, Bloomquist Compare, which we have. So if instead of KA doing this, if Bloomquist had made this announcement, I think I would be having a stronger reaction.
Yeah.
Because it would directly impact us.
Well, we have, Jowie, too, is a hybridizer that we have several of.
Oh, interesting. Those were sort of came to us serendipitously, in like variety packs that I purchased. But I like really sought out the Bloomquist. So I am sort of waiting for the shit to hit the fan on that.
Yeah.
And we'll see what's coming. So basically, Coseytown said no one can sell them, retroactively applying that rule that you didn't agree to everything from the past. And that's what's got my goat so bad, because also these terms were posted on her website, and it went out before the sale launched. And it was very interesting, because oftentimes when farms launch their dahlia sales, there's a farm called Microflower Farm who sells dahlia tubers, and it's one of these things, they call it Dahlia Wars. Basically, there's like a specified date and time that the store is going to launch, and everyone rushes to the store and quickly adds whatever they want to their basket, potentially even only getting one variety because they want to make sure they check out in time before it sells out. And it's this very competitive situation where there is more demand than there is supply. So then I thought was very interesting, and I was watching it happen live time while I was dog walking. Because fortunately, while I'm dog walking, I have a lot of time to just like cruise the internet. It's not like I'm sitting in an office supposed to be like doing something.
Right. You're just walking around with a dog and you can scroll around.
I can look at my phone while I'm doing it. So her sale launched, and it was days before any variety sold out. And it was like, I was texting John, be like, oh, the first variety sold out, like days later. And I do think that a large part of that was because people were concerned by, confused by, alarmed about the rule of, well, why am I going to invest $30 or $40 in one dahlia tuber to sell only cut flowers when something like this or this has lots of other things that look similar.
Well, and there's also like, if you're going to be a flower farmer, part of your business plan is inherently to propagate. Because there's a reason why florists buy flowers from people, because they don't have the land or the space to propagate and grow their own flowers. So like, I don't think there's anybody who would be able to operate simply a cut flower business just selling bouquets of stuff that they grow. I think part of it has to be propagation.
Well, I think they could, not dahlias though, because lots of flower farmers sell only bouquets, but they grow from seed.
Right.
You know, so if you're growing sunflower bunches, you invest, even if it's, there's a line of sunflowers called Pro-Cut, and they're pollenless, but they're single blooming, but they're fast growing, they're very uniform. So flower farmers grow the Pro-Cuts, and a packet of, say, 50 seeds, so 50 blooms, is only $5 versus $30 for something that's not going to make you 50 blooms.
Right.
So your input in and input out, if you're doing seeds, and you know, it's the same thing with cosmos, zinnias, whatever. You can get a packet of seeds for a side for just a few dollars, and that's enough to plant out But dahlias aren't like that. And the way that they reproduce is sort of separate.
Right.
From things that grow from seeds. So my beef is...
Tell me the beef.
The retroactive nature of what she was trying. Because I've never bought a Coseytown dahlia tuber from Coseytown. So at no point did I agree to these terms and conditions. And it's also another thing that's similar in the plant world is proven winners and how they have trademarks on all of their plant varieties because they spend years and years, just like Coseytown, developing these plants, testing them, trialing them, growing them, whatever. But these plants are all asexually reproduced, so like the dahlia tubers, and potentially grown from cuttings and things. But the way that, say, a buddleia grows, the point of it isn't to dig it up in the fall, multiply it by 10, and then replant it in the spring. That's not what you do. But it is what you do with dahlias. So telling people that they can't do that with something like a buddleia, to me, is different than a dahlia.
Right, because it's inherent in dahlias that's what you do.
Right. And another example is David Austin roses. He's no longer he's dead. His company is hybridizing and growing and developing and improving rose varieties. But a rose bush you plant in the ground, you can take cut flowers from it, but in the fall you don't dig it up, divide it, and store it. It's different to me.
Right. Because again, inherent with dahlias, one of the parts of the dahlia, of owning dahlias, is that
the
propagation.
Knowing and understanding that you must dig it up, and then you do divide
And I mean, granted, there are people who treat them like annuals.
Yes.
And they just leave them in the ground and they die and they replant them.
Right. Which is fine.
Do whatever you want. And that's the thing.
But
this doesn't affect those people.
Right.
But it was just, again, with Coseytown, I think the issue is the retroactive thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's so I didn't buy these under those terms.
Right.
And it's the same thing going to Santa Cruz, where they made it retroactive after their big sale.
Yeah, even more problematic.
Right. And it's also, I think the way that it came across was so bad because they said, we've spent the last 18 years and we lost $440,000 doing this. And it's well, seems like a bad business plan if that's the case. Mm-hmm. And I think, the tough thing is, because I don't want to tell anybody that you're not allowed to make money. You're allowed to do whatever you want to do.
I'm happy for people to make money.
Right.
I want everybody to be prosperous and successful. Because I think people are inherently happier when they have enough money that the basic needs are able to be met and they're not stressed and anxious about how they're going to get through their day-to-day lives. So I want people to make money. But in their announcement saying that you've not only never turned a profit, but lost $450,000. That's more than we paid for this house. That's more than we paid for for our last house. So that's more than I paid for my first two houses combined.
Yeah, it's a lot.
But my question to them is how? How did that happen? And we work very hard, and I don't want to imply that they or anyone else is not working very hard, but in their announcement, they basically said, we don't have the space to do this, so you need to do it for us.
Right, so they're saying that they don't have the space to propagate their dahlia tubers, and so that puts them at a disadvantage to resellers. And now there are some big resellers who potentially buy hundreds, or the issue is, so if you're a hybridizer and you spend years growing this one dahlia, if I put it in the ground and I get 10 more, and then the next year I plant all of those, I get 10 more off of each of those again. So it escalates quickly for resellers to then sell it. So to me, it would make sense to say all right, if you're going to purchase 20 or more dahlias, we require a royalty agreement to be in place.
Totally.
Because that makes sense.
Yeah, because obviously if you're buying 20 of something, your intention is to really grow a lot of that.
And I think there's you know, because, and listen, there's lots of ways to do business, but the other thing is Santa Cruz Dahlias is in business. They're not a charity. And I think, you know, they made it as, like, they made this post to make it seem like they were, you know, oh, we're doing this work, we're working so hard for you guys, and, like, we just need your help. And it's like, I mean, a 25% royalty off everything that, you know, we ever sell from you is a lot. And also, that goes to the next person, too. So if they sell to
Old Reading Farm.
If they sell to Old Reading Farm, and then we sell those tubers to somebody else, that somebody else has to pay the 25% royalty.
Supposedly has to.
Well, and then the other issue with both of these things is the unenforceability of it. And so it's like, you know, I hate inequity with laws because I am inherently a rule follower. So if there is a rule, speed limits, seat belts, whatever, I mean, laws, I guess, are different, but I like to follow the rules. So if we had bought a bunch of dahlias from this person, or if we buy them this year, I would feel, which we're not
going to,
but I would feel obligated to pay the 25% because I feel like that would be right. But I know that there's going to be plenty of people out there who are not following the rules. And then I feel like a rube because I'm the only one sitting here.
And you're kind of inherently put in a disadvantaged position, which is unfair.
Because again, 25%,
it's a
lot. I mean, imagine anything that you're doing and then suddenly your cost goes up 25%.
You know, and they talk about inflation.
Yes.
And like the inflation goal is 2%, and it's a big deal.
Yeah.
2%.
Well, and like the other, you know, you always look at, we always watch Shark Tank.
Shark Tank, exactly.
And one of the guys, Kevin, who we named our alpaca Kevin after.
Flash him on the screen.
His big thing was royalties in perpetuity. And it was always looked at as like,
all the other sharks would sort of roll his eyes when he goes down the royalty road. But if somebody accepts his offer and wants to work with Kevin, Mr. Wonderful, he brings his own whatever to the game, they're agreeing to that up front.
Right. But it comes across as like a sleazy business practice.
To some people.
Well, let's look at it this way.
I don't mind royalty.
Well, because I guess to me...
To Kevin. I do mind it to Santa Cruz.
Well, because 25% is too much.
Too much. He takes like a
1%, or it's either a very small percentage or a dollar.
If somebody's selling a product, and they always talk about their margins, so it's like, oh, I make a 50% margin on that. He's like, great, you have enough to give me $2 per item sold in perpetuity.
Yeah, and again, like, run your business however you want, but you gotta do a better job of messaging. Because I think if they had come out in a different way, I mean, first of all, they posted it in a private Facebook group, which I think was wrong. They didn't even tell the admins of that group. And like everybody in that flower community knows what happened with Coseytown, and like shit hit the fan.
Watched it happen.
Yeah. And so it's just like the way that you come across, the way that you message it means a lot in how people receive it.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, she also has like a very highly watched YouTube channel. She's on Instagram. You know, I think it would have made a lot of sense if she came out with a video that was like softer, because it was like real hard of a post. But so anyway, yeah.
And that is, so another kind of aspect of this is Florette. And speaking of videos, so Florette spent years and years hybridizing and developing these zinnias, and also, I think to somewhat a lesser extent, celosia and dahlias. But so what she did was she saved up a shitload of seed and launched it. And before she launched, she said, listen, like, she did sort of say it's unenforceable because these are open pollinated seeds, but like, I'm entering this game with respect, and I would like you to also play this game with respect. Please don't buy these seeds to resell them. Yeah. And also, please don't save these seeds with the intention of reselling them. And she did go into how she's been running a business with employees for years and years and hasn't sold any of these. But I think what she did incredibly right was she waited until she had a shitload of seeds. So as with dahlias, if what you need to do is before releasing a certain variety, wait and grow a shitload of that tuber so you kind of hit the market hard, flood it open, and let everybody who wants it get it. Because those zinnia seeds, even though there was a lot of fluff up about them on the internet and everybody was really excited,
Because I don't mean to interrupt, but there's one other thing, is that she sold them for a lot. They were what, $25?
$20 for a package of
which
seeds.
Is a lot.
That's like 10x what a normal packet of zinnia seeds costs.
Right, because you can get them for 99 cents at like Christmas tree shops or whatever.
Right.
So there was like some blowback because they were so expensive, but it was also like she framed it in a way where it was like, hey, listen, you and me, we're the same. We are, like, I've worked really hard on this. I respect what you're doing. I hope that you respect what I've done.
Yeah.
Whereas with Coseytown and KA, it just came across as like,
this is a me thing,
and
I want to keep you out of it.
Yeah.
Well, that's how Coseytown came across.
Yeah.
KA was just like, this is a me thing, and because I can't make money on my own, I need you to help me do it.
Well, and like the whole thing, so it makes sense that you don't want other people profiting off of your name. So like your Coseytown, you don't want people buying your tuber once and then selling their tubers based on Coseytown pink or whatever. And so I can understand that 100%, but you know, again, the way that she did it and like being retroactive, just all wrong. And so it seems like the same thing with KA. And that's another aspect of this, is that everybody is saying, well, you could still sell them, you just can't call them KA whatever, which seems like it's true.
Right, because there are very different rules and regulations as it pertains to trademarking, which is like the name, or patenting, which would be like the variety. So there are plant patents out there and available. If you look through like the Johnny's Seed catalog, there are patented plants where it's like, not only can you not save the seeds, but like you cannot do any propagation.
Right.
Like these genetics are patented, and that applies not to like home growers so much, but like commercial growers who might invest in a blackberry bush and then cut it and propagate and then grow 50 of them and sell them at like a nursery or something. You can't do that with a patented plant.
Right.
But none of these varieties, none of Coseytowns, none of KAs are patented, because that is a very complex and expensive process that they chose not to do.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, I can understand looking at it and saying, you know, there are people who are profiting off of my hard work. But I guess when it comes down to it, like, that's one of the aspects of dahlias. And it's a difficult thing to get around. And it would seem like a better way would be to, like, if you buy a certain amount or more, that you need to do the royalty thing. And then the other thing was, I kept trying to say it. So like with KA, you're worried about your trademark, your name being out there. The trademarks aren't finalized. They have only applied for it. They could still get denied. And so they're still doing this. And it just seems like it was rushed, and it was also after all their big sales, and it was retroactive, and there's no way they can enforce it. And it's, I don't know, because like, what if I buy KA dahlias from somebody who bought them from somebody else, who bought them from somebody else, who bought them from somebody else, who bought it from KA? It just seems wild to me. And I think there's also something to, like, if you want to counteract this, then sell them yourself.
Right.
You got to find a way, spend $400,000 on a small plot of land and propagate the bejesus out of them.
Or a big plot of land.
Yeah, I was trying to be. I mean, they're from California, so it's difficult, I'm sure, to own land out there, and even with water. And so I'm sure it's expensive, but there's got to be another way. And also, my whole thing is like with the trademarks and with how important your name is. If your name is that important, then people should want to buy it from you.
Right.
Like, there's something to being able to get those from the source rather than just some reseller. You know, and then with a reseller, you know, you're paying markup on it. especially with this 25% thing. Are we going to say that the prices aren't going to go up next year? In what situation do costs rise 20%, 25%, and the price stays the same? I mean, prices went up after COVID, and have they really gone down?
No, nothing's gone down.
I mean, I do remember when a sheet of OSB 10 years ago was $8, and then during COVID, I think it went up to like $65, but now it's $30.
Right. And so on the kind of scale and propagation subject, so one thing that and we're not telling anybody how to run their business, because we're running our business, and we're both basically working full-time for our business, and we're able to support ourselves with our business, which we're thankful for. Well, I'm not like a business expert. I didn't go to business school. I don't have a business degree, but I'm a hustler, and I care deeply, and I want to be comfortable in my life. So I do spend a lot of time thinking about not only how I'm going to make enough money in my business to support myself, but I also find myself thinking about other people's businesses. And I have a friend who has business, and I spend a lot of time thinking about her business. And because we go to craft fairs, I see other people and their businesses, and I think ooh, if that was my business, I would do this differently, or I might set this up a separate way. I spend a lot of time ruminating on.
When you're walking dogs, you have time to just think.
Free mind. Okay, so if it was me, and I was in a small space, pouring a lot of energy in my own small and limited space into developing these dahlias, and then I released them for sale, and say I released 50 of them, and I felt I was unable to recuperate my costs for the past 18 years with that business model, at no point did it occur to you to change your business model. And so literally all it would take would be to find a partner farmer, somebody who has experience growing, say, these 50 dahlias, I would like you to grow on. Next year there'll be 500. And then instead of releasing 50, and what, can you do a little math for me? 30 times 50?
1,500?
So instead of that release that you've worked so hard for, and I'm not minimizing the amount of work it probably takes to hybridize an appropriate, somebody spent work on this.
Yes. But that's why you sell it for $40 a tuber.
Right. But instead of selling 50 of them, because that's all the space, you only have space to grow 50.
Right.
Give them to someone else. Let them turn that 50 into 500, and then release those the following year.
Right.
And then instead of making 1,500, you're making 15,000, and it really changes your equation. And I know it might slow you down by a year, but if you've been doing this for 18 years and it hasn't been working for 18 years, do something different. And I guess that is what they're doing. They're saying now I want 25% of your money, and it's to me that's a no.
Well, and so this all, and I know you have to go, so I'm gonna try to be quick. This all comes back to what we price our chainsaw carvings at, because certain members of our family insist that we should charge more.
Looking at you, little bird.
But so we sell our mushrooms in person for $40.
Yes.
And that has been a number where it's it makes sense. People, see value in that. And that's the thing. I just don't see the value in forever money. So if you, in KA's situation, it's up the price or something, but I'm not going to pay 25% of my sales for the rest of the time that I'm selling these things. And I don't see the value in that. And so I think also part of it is, it seems whether or not they are being greedy, we don't know, but it seems sort of a greedy move.
Right. Allegedly not, because they want us to believe that they've done nothing but lose money.
Right. And we don't know, we don't look at their books. I don't know at all what these people are like. I have never watched a YouTube video from them. I had never even heard about KA Dahlias until this past week. And I have just been enthralled by the drama. And I just, so again, I'm not saying anything bad about Kristen or Brian. I think if you got to look at your messaging and maybe really think about what you're doing.
And I guess then it's up to people of whether or not they want to support that. And we've for sure seen people saying in the KA side of things, I will support them, and I do plan on sending them 25% of my income.
Yeah, and then there's even somebody who said, like, I'm going to look for other hybridizers that I've purchased from and send them
25%.
royalties. They didn't say 25%. They said they're going to look into starting a royalty program with other people. And so this is also a slippery slope where it's like, I think you're probably going to see a lot more of this happening because now Coseytown got blown up, KA got blown up a little bit lesser extent, and I think people are just going to sort of become numb to it at some point. But it makes me think maybe we should start hybridizing.
Well, we planted all those seed dahlias, and like we could, theoretically, if there's anything that's a standout.
I think we're a little too busy. Sorry, we can if you want to.
No, I mean, I bought 4 more packs of dahlia seeds, kind of thinking that.
Oh, yeah?
But this is such an ugly situation that it's like, this is why I want to grow dahlias, not to fight with people over royalties and whether or not I'm allowed to sell tubers.
Well, and even aside from the 25%, there's also the time that it's going to take to figure all of that out. Because, like, you know, I have hard enough time keeping track of everything that's going on in our accounting world. I can't imagine the additional stress to make sure that I figure out exactly how much we need to pay KA Dahlias in royalties, because I don't want to pay too much. I don't want to pay too little.
Well, it's also like, so they're saying that they don't have the time or the space to make enough money selling their own dahlias, but they are going to have the time and like the headspace to like hunt people down who sell their tubers. And like, even like, you know, there's some bigger sellers, like there's this farm called Triple Wren Farms that sells a lot of like really, really sought after varieties, including some named, you know, hybridizer people. So like, okay, keep track of them, but it's also like, how would they know how many? So like, this is razzmatazz. We have 5 plants. Say instead this was KA razzmatazz. How would they know? How are they ever going to know?
Well, they won't. And the other thing is, why are we playing by the same rules as someone who's like, so if we spend $200 with them, why are we playing by the same rules as somebody who's spending $10,000? You know, it just seems.
And lots of stores that sell dahlias limit the number of varieties. That's very common and normal.
Or the number of tubers.
Tubers, that's what I meant. That's what I meant. Thank you
for 5 tubers per variety or whatever.
Or lots of them will say 1. Because if like, you know, Bloomquist Jean, which we spent $30 a tuber, if at the end of the day we only have, say, 30 tubers, I don't necessarily want one person to scoop up all of those, because I want multiple people to be able to get that, say, and a Sierra Glow, or get Bloomquist Jean and a Boom Boom White. That way, you know, I'm trying to build these people's baskets. So since I'm looking for multiple customers, versus if KA wanted to just sell to Triple Wren so that Triple Wren could do, because they have a big farm and lots of space and employees and their whole thing.
So you lean on them to do all the selling and stuff and the growing and propagating.
The royalty from them versus just
from
like
everybody.
A plain ass person.
Well, and the other thing is, so if I'm paying royalties to KA after 5 years, I mean, have I not done enough work on these dahlias to be free of that royalty? Like, so I've grown them once, I've pulled them out of the ground, I've separated them, I've washed them, I've wrapped them, I've stored them, then I planted them again, and then did the same thing over and over again, and you're still getting 25% just because you the name on it.
The following year.
Right, that's what I'm saying. And even the years after that.
Right, yeah.
So anyway, there's a lot to this, and Catherine has to go. But yeah, so check out the Facebook pages. There's a lot happening.
Yeah, we'll put some links into the description box.
Yeah, And anyway, thank you guys for watching this. Hopefully this was entertaining, and we'll see you next time.